Hello everybody, hope you're all having a fantastic weekend, and welcome to Climbing the Ranks with Chase, as ranked battles have come out for Season 4. And that means, well, that means brand new ships to talk about, because this season, unlike the previous ones, is about tiers 5 to 7. So, what ships do you take in to ranked battles, you ask? Well, I'm here to kind of tell you, and I'm sort of going to do it in a tier way, I guess. I'm gonna sort of go by S tier, A tier, B tier, C tiers, and then of course trash tiers. And if I see you ever taking a trash tier into ranked, evil stare, evil stare. I need a webcam one day for this. That's something to consider in the future. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of divide all the ships into these tiers, and then of course, I'm also going to assume for a minute that you have 15-point captains. That means you have all the relevant skills to at least maximize the effectiveness of your ship, meaning your destroyer with concealment expert is likely to be more effective than your destroyer without it. And then I'm also going to assume that you have a certain degree of skill. That, or you have a certain degree of patience and hope that somebody will carry you all the way to the top. Okay, let's get started. First up, oh, and by the way, the entire tier list is in the video description below. So for those of you who have no patience to listen to me talk about the ships and why they belong in each individual tier, just click the video description and, well, there's the list. So first things first, oh yes, of course, you can kind of guess, right? There's the Nagato, and this will be your S tier ship. The Nagato is the S tier battleship. And, well, in terms of a lot of things, she's very, very comparable to the Colorado, and there are some things that I even think the Colorado is better on. There is one thing I like about the Nagato, and that is the fact that she is actually able to go reasonably fast for a battleship. Her survivability is, well, it's okay. It's, better than the Colorado in terms of how much HP she has. Her armor's a bit worse, but she can take some degree of punishment. Her guns are really, really good, nice and accurate, and if you know how to aim, you can make good short work of other ships, usually making them go boom, right? And then, of course, you can go, haha, deleted you. Her secondary armament is nothing to joke about, as she will shred ships that get close. A is kind of meh. See, the Colorado does have better AA, and that's the one thing the Colorado shines on. But why is speed so important, you ask? Well, see, in ranked, you're oftentimes required to keep up with other ships, like cruisers and destroyers, and a lot of them have a tendency of hitting the W key and then running away from you as quickly as possible. So, if you want to support them, you've got to actually sort of be within range of them. The Colorado, well, good luck when you're going 21 knots. So, Nagato, the one and only S-tier battleship. In terms of cruisers, that was a bit of a hard choice. I think right now there's probably two S-tier cruisers, and one of them is, of course, Japanese. The Myoko. Myoko is awesome. She's super stealthy. If you have like the concealment skill and everything, she's a nice stealthy cruiser. But the reason why she stands out on top, aside from the fact that she's actually really fast as well and can keep up with destroyers, is the fact that she has awesome Japanese shells that love to set everything on fire. Hold on a second, I thought that was the Russian thing. I thought they were supposed to have the vodka-filled shells. No, I guess the Japanese have sake-filled shells, if that makes any sense. But okay, anyways. You want a ship that lights fires, meet your best friend. And of course, guess what ships hate fires? Oh, right, that's right, battleships. And of course, if you mess... did I just say mess? If you meet a destroyer, you will mess them up. Jeez, I can't English today. So that is the most obvious S-tier candidate. The slightly less obvious one, in my opinion, is actually the Budyonny. The Budyonny, you say. Why would you use this ship? Well, Budyonny, nice and fast. She's got very good rate of fire on her guns, got good range, good arcs, and of course, being Russian ship and awesome, she will also set stuff on fire quite a bit. The Shchors is pretty close, but I put the Budyonny over the Shchors because I find the Budyonny to be a little bit more reliable when it comes to actually dodging stuff. She is a little bit more agile, and she does have a little bit more armor. So, Budyonny, S-tier cruiser number 2. Destroyers. Yay, let's get to destroyers. Destroyers, really, really, really important. And for those of you who thought the Blyskawica is there, yes, yes, yes. The Poland ship is indeed here, and well, she's pretty good at just about everything. Good torpedoes, 8-kilometer torps. They do good damage when they hit. Not that fast, but they can do the work. Guns, yes, check. She's got those guns, and they have pretty decent range. They fire okay. The rate of fire is a bit slow, but overall, very, very good ship. Oh yeah, of course, and she is really fast. 39 knots without a flag. And of course, concealment's pretty solid too once you have a concealment expert skill. But then you're probably looking at this and going, but we don't all have the money to buy premium ships. What then? Okay, I got it. I think the only other true S-tier destroyer, this thing. Yes. America, you got some love. Finally. I'm serious. The Mahan. Mahan, I think, is very, very, very good destroyer right now in ranked. And, well, she's just got about everything going for her besides speed. Guns, fantastic. You get close to Mahan, it will shred you. She has 9.2 kilometer torpedoes and has these kind of launchers where you can get 8 off in one direction, turn your ship around, and you got 4 more. So in terms of torpedoes, nice and flexible. Of course, if you have the right skills, such as concealment expert, you're pretty stealthy. So, Mahan, S-tier destroyer number 2. What about carriers, you say? Oh, okay. I don't really want to pick a carrier for S-tier, but if I had to, Saipan mostly because amazingly fast planes, even though the squadrons aren't very big, but really, really fast, can zip around and really catch stuff off guard and bomb things. Air superiority configuration really does tear up planes. And of course, you've got those bombers, which have a tendency of messing up destroyers. Remember those tier 7 destroyers? They really don't like getting hit by 1,000-pound bombs. Squadron of 9. See, Saipan's a pretty good carrier. Now, aside from the Saipan, let's say you're having to pick another non-premium carrier. I will have to go with the Hiryu. I think the Hiryu has better overall flexibility than the Ranger. Her 222 or 312 are really, really good flight control setups. And of course, when you have torpedo bombers plus dive bombers, you can really mess up, let's see, small DDs. You can also damage over time some bigger ships. Although Japanese torpedoes, they seem to have a, well, actually they don't seem, they just do have a pretty iffy chance of flooding sometimes. So, okay, I mean, I'll say Hiryu as the only other tier, the S tier carrier. Moving on, and we've got the A tiers. And the A tiers are very good ships still. And first up, let's talk about battleships. And I will have to say, the Colorado is, if I had to say anything about the Colorado, she is of the A plus tier, which is really, really, really good. Comparatively speaking to the Nagato, yes, I know she has slightly less HP, but her armor is more durable. I've generally found Colorados to be quite tough little ships. The guns are really good now, unlike before. Colorado used to have really crappy guns, but her guns are actually pretty good now, and they do pack a punch. In terms of her AA, come on, it's a US battleship. The AA is obviously going to be awesome, and of course shredding planes all day long. Maneuverability, in terms of the ability to turn, really good. Really tight turning radius, which means that she is going to be able to often turn out of problems, like, let's say, torpedoes. But, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, poor Colorado, 21 knots. You're just not getting anywhere fast. And when you have, let's say, Russian cruisers that can zip away from you, or Myokos that can zip away from you at 35 plus knots, good luck trying to keep pace with them. So, yeah, Colorado, A plus tier. Moving on to cruisers, and once again, I've got 2 selections. I would say the Shchors would be like an A tier cruiser. The only thing I don't like about the Shchors, and mind you, the Shchors is still really good. The only thing I don't like about the Shchors is her armor is a bit wonky, and, well, she's not really maneuverable. The turning circle radius is pretty large, and you really can catch Shchors, off guard and just wreck them. So, as much as I like the fact that they have 4 triple 152mm turrets that if you hide behind islands and sling over them, you do have a tendency of being a really, really annoying pest of a ship. She's just, if you get caught out in the open ocean, she's just not fantastic in that scenario. So, Shchors, I would say A tier cruiser. And then, of course, we have good old Cleveland, because the Cleveland, it says a tier 6, but we all know the truth. She's a tier 8 in disguise. Yes, That did I say tier 8? No, I didn't say tier 8. No, she's a tier 6 ship. She has tier 8 stuff. Okay, anyways. Realistically speaking, Cleveland has, well, I mean, she has a lot of good things about her. Her HP pool is pretty comparable to a lot of the heavy cruisers at tier 7. Her armor is good, and she's got that really wonky citadel thing as well. Sometimes you just won't hit those citadels. Her main battery guns, again, you got 4 triple 152mm guns that you can just sit there and spam click things. Set them on fire, burn them, set them on fire. HE damage to death. Fantastic. And then, of course, Cleveland has awesome AA for a cruiser. So I would say Cleveland, viable, A tier. She's not bad in terms of speed. I mean, not as good as the Myoko, but not bad, and she's reasonably maneuverable. So, yeah, Cleveland's a pretty solid ship. Destroyer at tier 7, that would be in the A tier. Kiev. Kiev is fantastic in some regards. Super fast. Super fast. I mean, you want to watch a ship take off. I mean, the Kiev is your baby. She will run very quickly. 42.5 knots without a flag. Pop a flag on and a speed boost, and woo, look, she's zipping away. The only thing I'm not big on the Kiev. One, her concealment's not fantastic, which means other destroyers are likely to get a drop on you first before you can actually do anything about them. Her guns are amazing, so if you actually do spot them, have fun trying to run away from a Kiev. It will chase you down, and you will only die tired. So yeah, don't bother running away from a Kiev if it actually wants to chase you down. The only problem I find with the Kiev is that her torp range, well, her torp range is kind of, I mean, 4 kilometers, you're literally like last ditch charging somebody down, dropping torpedoes on them. Otherwise, your torps never get used. And that takes away some of that flexibility for the Kiev, and that's why she is down at the A tier. Still, remember, in ranked, Destroyer's job is a lot of times to fight for cap, contest cap, and defend cap. So having a really fast, zippy ship, not a bad thing. And finally, our last Destroyer candidate down at the A tier is actually this Chinese destroyer, the Anshan. Well, I mean, what can we say about the Anshan? She is basically Gremiyashi 2.0. Her concealment's pretty good. If you have concealment expert on the ship, really good. She's nice and speedy still, 38 knots. Her rudder shift time is okay. In terms of torpedoes, the Anshan has a pretty viable set. Don't get the stock one, but once you upgrade it, she's got a viable set. They've got 8-kilometer range. They go 60 knots, and they do good damage. And then, well, the reason why she's not higher is her guns. 4 single 130mm guns. They're not bad guns, but when you're running into things like, oh, I don't know, the Mahan or the Blyskawica or the Kiev, where they have substantially more firepower, and well, then you run into a bit of trouble getting to gun duels with them. Still, your good concealment, your reasonably good speed, and your good torpedoes puts you up in the A tier. B tier, still viable ships, but although they can be a little bit more situational. So first up, the battleships. First up, I would say the New Mexico is a B+ tier ship. And the only reason I put the New Mexico in ranked over the Fuso is because the New Mexico has better armor. And the New Mexico's better armor will allow you to at least resist hits from 406 and 410mm guns on the Colorado and the Nagato, better than what the Fuso can do. The only reason why tier 6 battleships will even appear on this list is because the New Mexico and the Fuso both do one thing better than the Colorado or the Nagato, and that's the ability to simply say, there's an area with something like a cruiser in it. I want to saturate that area with as many battleship caliber shells as possible, and hopefully Citadel cruisers, or delete them, and well, these two ships are going to be your friend. New Mexico is, again, having the same problem as the Colorado. She is slow. 21 knots is really slow. And again, she's going to have problems keeping up with things. So New Mexico, B+ tier. Now, B tier, Fuso. Fuso is a bit faster, 24.5 knots. But the problem with the Fuso, even though she has the same number of actual shells that she can throw out, and you know they're the same size as the New Mexico's shells, and they do pretty similar damage, is the fact that the Fuso, well, the armor is a little bit more wonky. And when you're dealing with only other tier 6s, I think you're fine, but the minute you gotta deal with tier 7s, the Fuso's armor is just not that great. And typically speaking, if I see a Fuso and I'm in a Nagato, in my mind it's, oh, there's some food. If I see a New Mexico, I'm like, oh, there's something that's going to be kind of annoying. I'm going to have to maybe shoot at it some more and maybe depend on more penetration damage. While the Fuso, it's just like, oh, look, you have a citadel along the entire lower waterline of your ship. Let me just aim there and you die. So, still very, very good ship, but B tier. Moving on, and now we're going to talk about cruisers, and I think the Molotov, where is this Molotov? Oh, here it is. I think the Molotov would be a B tier ship. Why? Because in terms of cruisers, her HP pool ain't that great. Her armor isn't that amazing. She is fast, and I just think that she's not as good as some of the other cruisers like the Shchors or the Cleveland, or things like the Myoko. She's just not as good. Still, the Molotov does have her. I guess she does have her certain perks, and that is the fact that she's got tier 9 guns on a tier 6 ship. And if you can use her guns to their maximum effect, you can do some pretty good damage, although the fact that she is super, super, super fragile is not a good thing, as I feel like any battleship that looks at her the wrong way, and she will just die. Of course, the same problem sort of affects the Indianapolis. Similar situation, even though the Indianapolis is a tier 7 and a little bit better. She is a little bit more able to deal with damage, but the Indianapolis is just, I don't know, she's not as good. I mean, she doesn't have the rate of fire as the light cruisers. She doesn't have the fire setting potential of the Myoko, and really when you're in ranked and you're dealing with those battleships, you just want to set them on fire and piss them off all the time. Indianapolis, though, she does have her unique quirks, like radar, for example, and the fact that her 203mm armor-piercing shells actually do pretty good. They have good normalization angles, and they can penetrate ships at angles that other ships might not be able to. Still, I don't think this is going to be my go-to ship for ranked, so in this case, B tier. And then, of course, we're talking about destroyers, and then you've got both the, not the Mahan. Mahan is all the way up at S tier. You have the Sims. I think the Sims can be a viable destroyer. She's nice and fast, 38.5 knots. She's very agile. She's got good guns. The thing that I feel that lets the Sims down is that compared to the Mahan, the Sims torpedoes are just meh. Really, really meh. You either got these 5.5 kilometer sets that go 65 knots. I mean, these ones are okay. The range is not great. And then, or you have like the longer range ones, but those things are so pathetic. I mean, you can hit ships with that and they'd just be like, oh, you hit me with something. Oh, right, that was a torpedo. So, the Sims, And also, even though her rate of fire is really good on her guns, she's only got 4 of them, and if you actually do the math, even though the Mahan has a slightly less rate of fire, she still spits out more shells, which means more damage. Therefore, Mahan edge over the Sims. And then, of course, if we're going to talk about destroyers, we also have to talk about the Farragut. And the Farragut, I think, is roughly in the same boat as the Sims, although, I mean, the Farragut is a bit slower. Her torpedoes have a little bit more range, so that could be a small advantage. Regardless, I would still put the Farragut at on the B tier, not really any lower than that, because on the C tier we have other ships, and these other ships are things like the Yorck, where what's wrong with the Yorck? I feel like the Yorck can do certain things well. So, for example, you get up closer, AP is able to do good damage. At range, though, I feel like you're really dependent on your HE, and in that case, if you're going to be dependent on your HE, there are other ships that just do it better than the Yorck, and nothing else really stands out more than any other ship. Her A isn't as good as some of the other better A-equipped cruisers. Her speed is not that good compared to the other cruisers. Her maneuverability is not amazing. Her detectability is not amazing. She's just sort of meh. Even her armor is very meh. So Yorck, definitely C tier. Another cruiser that would be in the C tier, I think would be something like an Aoba. Where are you, Aoba? Come here. Don't hide from me. There you go. Aoba, I think, could be a C tier as well. Again, if you can have a Myoko, why not? The Myoko has slightly better armor. She's got more guns, which means more shells, which means more fires and more damage. But the Aoba, I think if you don't have Myoko and you want to sort of learn that Myoko playstyle, the Aoba I think can do it. She's still pretty stealthy, still pretty fast, reasonably agile, and her guns are still these awesome Japanese guns armed with sake-filled shells that just set everything on fire. So Aoba I think is okay, but I mean there's something else way better to take in. So Aoba, C tier. Then, of course, we get to the one and only C-tier carrier, and it's this amazing piece of... Oh, hold on. Wait, it's not trash yet. It's not trash tier yet. The Ranger. Ranger, comparatively speaking to a Saipan or Hiryu, just not very competitive. Sure, you can maybe try to bomb the crap out of something, but... I mean, the Ranger just... Yeah, it's just not that good. I mean, if you have more fighters, you're pretty much useless. If you have a bit more strike, then you can't hold air. So, Ranger's just not that great. Another ship, which, yeah, some people are going to complain that I have her so low down here, is the Atlanta, C tier. And the only major problem with the Atlanta is she is way too situational in ranked. You get on a certain map where lots of islands, lots of cover, a lot of things to hide behind. The Atlanta does perfectly fine. She is able to sit there and absolutely wreak havoc. And then, of course, you have the Atlanta on maps like, hey, Ocean, where you have absolutely no cover at all whatsoever. And this is just a ship you will regret bringing in. So, Atlanta, for me, too situational, although her ability to rapid fire into other ships and, you know, wreck destroyers and set fire to every battleship that she fires on is a fantastic thing. I just feel like she is too limited by the maps that she will be good on. And then finally, we have one last battleship to talk about, and it's the Warspite. The Warspite, I think, in random is fine, but in ranked, I feel like she's just too vulnerable to everything, it feels like. Too vulnerable to fire, her damage, was it repair kit or damage control? I think it's damage control. Her damage control is really, really short. She seems to take lots of damage from things like Nagatos or Colorados, and if you put up the Warspite against those kinds of ships, she just struggles a lot. Yeah, she's a little bit faster than the US battleships, but not by much. She is very agile, which is good for dealing with things, but her turrets also turn really slow, so something gets close to you, and you're not really going to have much that you can do about that. I don't know. Warspite, if you play it, she could do well in certain matches, but overall, not that good. And then, of course, you have Trash Tier, and Trash Tier is... Oh my gosh, let me think. Trash tier. Every tier 5 would be in the trash tier and ranked, because why are you bringing a tier 5 into battles where you will constantly see tier 7s? And especially if you run to good players in tier 7s, tier 5 just is no-go. So pretty much, yeah, all tier 5s, trash tiers. Most tier 6s will belong in the trash tier, so please, whatever happens, don't bring independences and stuff. Those just don't really do all that well. Don't bring things like, what else is there? A tier 6. Let me think. Oh, please don't bring Mutsuki. Oh, dear God. I saw somebody bring a Mutsuki earlier. Don't do that. The Mutsuki is absolutely worthless in ranked. You have torpedoes only, but most of the things you're going to fight have guns, and they will wreck you before you can do anything to them. So, yeah, so a lot of tier 6s don't bring. Don't bring a Hatsuharu. Tier 7-wise, please do not bring a Hatsuharu. I mean, again, same problem. You're going to run into Mahans, Blyskawicas, Kievs, Anshans, everything that's got gun advantage over you, and they will kick your butt. So don't bring a Hatsu either. I mean, out of all the destroyers, the Hatsu, I think, is the worst destroyer right now in ranked. So don't bring Hatsus. And finally, Pensacola. I don't really recommend bringing Pensacola's. Yes, Pensacola has fantastic guns and everything, but the Pensacola, we all know, giant citadel for battleships. But the biggest problem I find about the Pensacola is I find that she is very, very easy to spot. High detectability, which means that it's going to be hard for you to hide. So kind of a no-no there for the Pensacola. And so she belongs also in the trash tier. Anyways, hopefully this sort of rough overview and tiering of all the ships give you a sort of better idea on what ships you should be taking into ranked, because taking the right ship in is going to allow you to be much more successful. Anyways, folks, have a good day. take care, and good luck in ranked, because you need it, and I need it, and we all need it, because my ranked experience has been kind of meh so far. All right, have a good one, and talk to you soon.